Let's talk about AOC for a second. There was a time when I defended her. You know, I think I caught a lot of flack because I was unwilling to throw her under the bus a couple years ago because I feel, hey, she's young. I mean, she's the age of my daughter. And what she know? But she didn't have any political experience. And she's going in there with these vipers. And, you know, every once in a while she'll say things, that, you know, and they'll resonate with me. And then other times it was like, I don't know where she was coming from. I think now it's more apparent that she has folded into the Democratic empire. When for you did you kind of accept? I don't know what your trajectory has been. Let me just put that to you. What has been your progression, or what are your thoughts about AOC and the recent developments?
Tim, I was with you as an organizer. You know, I can't take these positions that these folks take that haven't organized anybody and know nothing about how you build movement, who pretend that they can project into the future how someone will evolve, and who take this position where they just don't deal with electoral politics because they're so revolutionary. So when she emerged, same thing. She's younger than you know, my oldest daughters, 28 years old, still in development. And so I couldn't start off by, you know, condemning her. I said, give the young woman a chance. Let's see how she evolves. I get slack too, you know, but I don't give a fuck because, you know, basically this is what I do, you know, and so I'm you know, I'm an elder, you know, I know I got a sense of how you have to do this politics and how things unfold. And, you know, so yeah, I got some slack, but when it became clear that because of the fact that there was no movement. You see, people have to understand that when you go into this, like you said, when you start swimming with these sharks, if you don't have accountability, if you don't have folks that can mentor you to help you to avoid some of the traps, to avoid getting sucked in, if your own ideas are still evolving, your own ideological development is still, you know, still developing, if you will, use frame it like that. It's easy then to get sucked into this thing. I mean, you become an overnight star. You're on the David Letterman show and all of this, and it's easy to get sucked in. All right. So over a while, you know, then it became clear that she wasn't going to be able to hold the line with progressive politics because even in her own mind, what was progressive or radical was a little bit fuzzy. Okay. And so I think that as a consequence, I think the progressive movement basically lost her. All right. And now she's thinking in careerist terms, because you got these idiots who, you know, talking about, well, one day she's going to run for president. For what? Yeah. What is she bringing to the table that's different? Right. Okay. So again, for me, the explanation for why many of these folks turn out to be just opportunist criminals is not just them, but we have to look at ourselves too. Right. We have this movement it's such incredibly weak movements and organizations. So that now you have armchair folks who just, you know, pontificate and stuff. And that's really about it. We need that, of course, if you're talking about something, you know, but because there's no accountability structures, then these folks we lose. Look at some of the folks in the so-called squad. Same kind of phenomenon. We tried to, at the Black Alliance of Peace, we tried to work with a couple of these folks. And we had meetings to work with them. But what happens? They come in, Tim, they hire these pimps who work in DC, who have this narrow and conservative view to how you do politics. And they become their chiefs of staff and everything else. And they are already kind of, you know, a little shaky. That means the new candidates. And they get sucked into a pragmatism. That even though you might have some radical views, you know, we need to be pragmatic. What can you really do, you know? And so they give up and surrender their principles and their views in order to be pragmatic. And what happens is you end up being just another opportunist. So, you know, there's no progressive thought. There's no radical thought. Look, you've been around long enough to remember back in the 1970s, because the Congressional Black Caucus, they were in fact the conscience of the Congress. You had some black radicals in that, okay? People got to remember, if they don't know, that when the state went after Angela Davis, a communist, a black communist who was charged with terroristic charges, there was massive support in the Congressional Black Caucus and among all of the emerging black politicians. Nobody wasn't scared back in those days. Now you got Omala Yeshitela from the African People's Socialist Party, 81 years old, facing the possibility of prison because they oppose U.S. policies in Ukraine. You can't get these Negroes to utter a peep on that. These are real chumps, okay? So that shows you how far to the right politics has gone. So it is the lack of accountability that we're unable to impose that allow these folks to surrender to their own internal opportunism. So I criticize them, I criticize us, I give us a little bit of a break because we didn't just evolve like this. What we are today in terms of a radical movement is as a consequence of what Pascal Roberts refers to as a 50-year counter-revolutionary process. That the state decided in the 1970s they're never going to allow another generation that emerged in the 60s and 70s to emerge again. And so it was a concerted effort to undermine radical politics, to undermine the leading edge of radical politics, which is the Black liberation movement. And we gotta say this too, Tim. We got young white folks who they don't have a clue. They actually think that their little multinational organizations with their emphasis on the white proletariat, that they're actually going to run something, that they're going to make revolution in the U.S. No, you're not. If this process is not led by African people, black people in this country, it ain't going nowhere. Okay, so the enemy understood that, and that's why they systematically tried to dismantle our organizations. Okay, and that's why we had this emergence of the phenomenon of the Black American with an emphasis on America. That's why today you get Negroes talking about how concerned they are about Putin and Xi in China. I'm like, what have they done to you, Negro? When you look in your rear view mirror and see those blue lights, I bet you $1 to a donut. Okay, I'm not gonna go too far. The officer who gets out that car is not gonna be Chinese, Iranian, Russian. They're gonna be a homegrown U.S. citizen. It might be white or black. And you still might end up being brutalized like your brother in Memphis who got his ass whooped, beat to death by those 5 black criminals.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey family, enjoyed this snippet with Ajamu Baraka? I know, right? Check this. There's so much more Tim Black and Ajamu dived into. From the intricacies of Dr. Cornel West's campaign to the heated debate over Trump's prosecutions and Biden's polling nosedive. Plus, we delve deep into the ongoing debate between progressives and liberals over class and race. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on this enlightening conversation. Click the link to watch the full episode now. It's a new day.